Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's look at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker with Tom McKenzie, and we're joined by Bloomberg reporter Chloe Millay. Chloe, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, let's think about what is happening in Europe, and particularly for Rheinmetall, one of the defence stocks, which is falling. This is always quite a difficult market correlation.
Yep.
The idea of peace in Ukraine actually is a setback for the defence name.
Yeah, absolutely. Very classic case of peace talks progressing and defence shares falling. And we have seen that for Rheinmetall, but also other names like Hensoldt and Leonardo this morning. So we are entering the second day of talks between Ukraine and the US in Berlin. And the big focus of the negotiations at the moment is around security guarantees. So Zelensky has hinted that Ukraine could actually back away from its long-term goal of joining NATO and instead accept bilateral security guarantees from the US, Europe, and other states, including Japan. So this actually signals quite good progress on those peace talks. And as a result, we're seeing that weakness today in those defense shares. So this is actually even despite the fact that even if we do have peace in Ukraine, doesn't necessarily mean that the countries will stop spending on defense. But there always seems to be that correlation in the market between news of peace and defense stocks prices.
Automaker stocks in focus as well this morning. The focus on climate change rules and maybe some adjustments from the EU.
Yeah, so the EU is preparing to soften some of those rules around combustion engine cars. So currently the rules are that the new combustion engine vehicles will actually be banned from 2035. But what the EU is considering now is either extend that deadline for 5 years or take the ban fully off the table. So that would essentially allow those car makers in Europe to transition to emission-free cars over a longer period of time. And that could be a relief for those companies. You know, European car companies have struggled to remain competitive, and the removal of maybe some of that regulatory burden could help with that. So that would be good breathing room. But then the risk is that it could actually slow development of some kind of new green technologies, slow also the reaching of some climate targets, and that could potentially widen the gap between what, you know, US companies like Tesla can do in terms of technology versus what Mercedes, Stellantis, BMW, etc. could have to offer here in Europe. So that has to be taken into account as well. So there's some caveat to that, and that explains some gains in Stellantis this morning, but quite modest gains in those shares.
Okay, let's also think about the pharmaceutical sector. Argenx has had an issue with one of its important drug trials.
Yeah, so Argenx is a biotech company based in the Netherlands, and it essentially has one flagship drug that I will not attempt to pronounce, but one flagship drug, and that is used for a variety of applications for autoimmune diseases. And the shares have actually rallied quite impressively over the last few months because it's been able to get a lot of wins in terms of successful trials, but it has just encountered a big setback. So it had to discontinue studies that were checking if it could use that flagship drug for a thyroid eye disease. And so this rules out now a population of about 100,000 in the US, and that puts pressure on the sales ambition for 2030 and also puts a little bit more scrutiny on the results of other trials, so other catalysts that are coming next year. In kind of better news perhaps for Argenx, multiple analysts have said that the share price weakness today is actually a buying opportunity. So they said that the fundamentals do remain strong. It's kind of a temporary setback, but we have seen a lot of weakness in those shares for Argenx this morning.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.